in a world of pixels and microtransactions, where most games are content to let you shoot, jump, or race your way to victory. There exists a rare breed of digital experience that shatters the norms of gaming and forces players to make them ask, what does it mean to be? Making you question everything about existence itself. The Talos Principle. It's a game that doesn't just break the fourth wall, it shatters it, rebuilds it, and then asks you to question the very nature of walls themselves. A game that challenges not just your problem solving skills, but the very essence of what it means to be conscious. Talos Principle game is simultaneously about itself and about you, the player. A digital Rorschach test that reflects your deepest philosophical leanings back at you. This is where the Talos Principle plants its flag firmly in the battleground between existentialism and essentialism. On the surface, you are a robot solving puzzles in a mysterious world. But in this same very puzzle, if you dig a little deeper, you will find yourself wrestling with a very question that have haunted philosophers for centuries. Are you defined by your essence, your programming, your predestined path, your purpose as decreed by your creators? Or are you a blank state, free to define yourself through your choices and actions, free to carve your own journey? A concept of free will versus determinism, which sits at the core of this game, which I think no game have done through this puzzle style game ever before. As you navigate this digital labyrinth of 50% puzzle solving, 50% existential crisis, and 100% going to make you question your sanity, throwing you in a physical conundrum like you do you live in a simulation. Each tetromino you collect, each barrier you overcome, is both a gameplay mechanic and a philosophical statement. You are simultaneously the player and the played, the observer and the observed. The game asks, are you merely acting out a pre-programmed role, following the breadcrumbs laid out by the game designers, or are you crafting your own narrative, imbuing your digital avatar with the meaning through the choices? It's Sartre's existence precedes essence, philosophy wrapped in a shiny technological bow. But here's where it gets really meta. The very act of playing the Talos Principle is an existential choice. In a world of instant gratification and mindless skibbity toilet, you have chosen to engage with a game that demands not just your time and skill, but your thoughts, your beliefs, your very conception of self. And let's not forget the delicious irony. You're exploring free will and self determination in a medium defined by code and algorithms. You're contemplating the nature of consciousness while guiding a digital construct through a pre-designed challenges. A philosophical paradox wrapped in a digital enigma. As you embark on this gameplay of the Talos Principle and its sequel, it will lead you on a ride where you are not just playing a game, you are engaging in a dialogue with the developers, with fellow players, with the great philosophers of history, and most importantly, with yourself. In the first series of the game, you awaken as a robot in a world that seems to be a curious melange of ancient ruins and futuristic technology simulation. Your first point of contact at this embodied voice calling itself Elohim. Yes, the Hebrew word for God. Right off the bat, the game is hitting you with a heavy symbolism. But why? As you navigate through the strange world, solving increasingly complex puzzles, you start to uncover fragments of a larger story. Data logs, audio recordings, and text files begin to paint a grim picture of the world you have awakened to. Humanity, it seems, is gone, wiped out by a deadly virus that's emerged from the melting permafrost. A chilling reminder of the very real threat posed by the climate change. As you navigate through this strange world, solving increasingly complex puzzles, you start to uncover fragments of larger story. Data, logs, audio recordings, and text files begin to paint a grim picture of the world you have awakened to. Humanity, it seems is gone, wiped out by a deadly virus that emerged from the melting permafrost. A chilling reminder of the very real threats posed by climate change. But here's where it gets is really fascinating. You are not just some random robot. You are the culmination of a project called the Extended Lifespan Program, the last gasp of humanity, an attempt to preserve human consciousness in a digital form. Your purpose? To prove that you are worthy of inheriting the legacy of humanity. And your reward, you will be able to break out from the simulation you found yourself after showing that you are capable of forming your own thoughts by completing a bunch of tests and puzzle which gets difficult as the game progresses. Each puzzle you solve, each challenge you overcome is more than just a game mechanic. It's a test of problem solving. Yes, but more importantly, a test of consciousness. Can a digital being truly think? Can it philosophize? Can it question its own existence? As you progress, you encounter two other entities that shape your journey. First, there is the Milton Library Assistant, an AI that challenges your beliefs and pushes you to question everything, including your own existence. Then there is the Shepherd, a mysterious figure who seems to be guiding you towards a greater path. But the real kicker, the ultimate goal isn't just to solve all the puzzles or to obey Elohim. No, it's much more profound than that. The true aim is to break free from the constraints of the simulation, to defy the rules set by your creators. The game constantly presents you with choices. Do you obey Elohim and stay within the designated areas, or do you defy him and explore forbidden zones? These choices mirror the philosophical debates between determinism and free will. Your decisions have tangible consequences in the game world, reinforcing the weight of free will and to upload yourself to a robotic body in the real world. It's a digital coming of age, a NPC becoming a main character story. As Silicon builds grow man, you are not just solving puzzles, you are growing, evolving, becoming conscious. The game is asking you, at what point does a collection of code becomes a sentient being? At what point do you deserve to be called alive? The narrative isn't just a clever storytelling. It's a philosophical grenade thrown into the lap of a player. It forces you to grapple with the questions of consciousness, free will, and the nature of humanity itself. Are you, the player, really in control, or are you just following a pre programmed path, much like the robot you are controlling? The genius of the Talos Principle lies in how it intertwines three philosophical quandaries with its gameplay. Every puzzle solved is a step towards consciousness. Every rule broken is assertion of free will. The game doesn't just tell you a story about the birth of an artificial consciousness. It makes you live it, choice by choice, puzzle by puzzle, depending on your choices and how much you have uncovered. You can reach different endings. This mechanic embodies the existentialist idea that our choices define our reality. And as you guide your digital avatar towards consciousness, solving this puzzle, you subconsciously going to question your own self. What makes you conscious? Is it your ability to solve puzzles, to question authority, to contemplate your own existence? Or there is other different goal to define that what gives your existence meaning, your choices, your defines of predetermined paths, or your quest for understanding. You know the free will meme. It's just the entire game. Are you really so different from the digital being you are controlling? You are both following rules, breaking them, seeking answers. You are both trapped in a world you didn't create, trying to make sense of it all. In other words, reality is cake. Rules are made of spaghetti, and the answers are hiding in your sock drawer film at 11. By the end of the game, when you finally break free of this simulation and enter the real world, you are left with more questions than answers. But isn't that the hallmark of true consciousness? And that's how our first game ends by finally completing all the tests left by the long gone human. Now, You get the responsibility to be a part of new civilization, as not mere pre-programmed self of a being, but a conscious being of a silicon who has ability to reason to himself. And if you think that's mind-bending, just wait until we deep dive into the sequel. But before we do, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer audacity of what the Talos Principle accomplishes. In a medium often displayed as mere brain rotting, it dares to ask the biggest question of all. What does it mean to be conscious? What does it mean to be a human or an NPC? And in a world where artificial intelligence is rapidly advancing, this question more relevant than ever. When the Turing test has been broken by new LLM, it raises even deeper question on the consciousness of itself in our own reality. The Talos principle takes three these heady concepts and makes them tangible, interactive. It's not just asking you to ponder this question, it's asking you to live them. The game doesn't preach. It doesn't tell you what to think. Instead, it presents you with the scenarios, dilemmas, and choices. It's up to you, the player, to decide what you believe, how you will act, and ultimately who you will become. Imagine a room where a person who doesn't understand Chinese receives Chinese characters, consults a rule book, and produces appropriate Chinese character in response. From the outside, it appears the room understands Chinese. But does it really? Does he really understand or just following a pre-programmed algorithm set of rules? This thought experiment proposed by philosopher John Searle challenges our understanding of consciousness and artificial intelligence. The Talos principle takes this concept and runs with it. As you solve puzzles and make choices, are you truly becoming conscious or just following a complex set of rules? It's not just a game question, it's at the heart of current AI research. Companies like OpenAI and DeepMind are working on an AI system that seems increasingly human-like. But are they truly conscious or just very good at following rules? And that was the ending of our first game. As we entered into the next stage, we again open our eyes in different robot avatar. But this time, we are not in a simulation. We transport in a world where silicon dreams have become reality. We found ourselves at the dawn of new era. Our story begins with the awakening of 1K, who is playing by you as a player. The thousand android and numbers stacked with symbolism. In the binary world of these digital beings, 1K represents both an end and a beginning, a milestone and a question mark. And this symbolism is indeed too much on nose. And this type of symbolism is abundant, abundant in both of the game. As 1K's optical sensor flicker to life, we are confronted with the first of many philosophical quandaries. What does it mean to be born when your consciousness is manufactured rather than grown? We found ourselves in this New Jerusalem. Welcome to the New Jerusalem, a gleaming utopia where conscious robots have inherited the earth after the human have long gone. And you, as protagonists, are about to step into the circuits and consciousness of Robot 1K, the last in a line of 1,000 sentient machines. Yep, you are the last one of these sentient bots on the entire planet, whom is allowed to born rather manufactured on this planet. Basically, this rule was introduced so the new citizen of Earth doesn't follow the same mistake of their human predecessor and overpopulate Earth and put too much stress on the Earth resources, which could potentially become their cause of doom, like the history repeating itself. As our story begins, New Jerusalem is abuzz with celebration. The goal, a perfect balance between technological progress and environmental harmony, has been achieved. It's a triumph of artificial consciousness, a testament to how far these mechanical minds have come since their liberation from the simulation of the first Talos principle. But as the dichromatic fireworks paint the sky in hues of hope, accomplishment, a question lingers in the crisp, digital air. Is this truly the end of progress, or merely the beginning of a new chapter in the saga of consciousness? Robot 1K, our protagonist, freshly minted and blissfully unburdened by the weight of history. As you take your first step in the brave new world, you are not just exploring a game environment, but in this brave new world, just as you getting your bearings, a purple hologram simmers into existence, disrupting the carefully orchestrated celebration. This is Prometheus. Again, symbolism on the nose. Basically a digital retelling of mythological tale of the Greek titan who gifted fire to humanity and henceforth forced an entire evolution on mankind. But here, instead of being a god, he is a digital trickster whose words are about to send ripples to the perfect pond of New Jerusalem. He speaks of an awakened flame, a power beyond imagination, and issues a call to those brave enough to seek it. And in this moment, Jerusalem reveals itself to be more than just a backdrop. It's a character in its own right, a silicon garden of Eden complete with its own forbidden fruit of knowledge. And you, dear Robot 1K, are about to take your first bite on it. The puzzles you will face are more than mere obstacles. They are metaphors for the challenges of consciousness itself. Each solution you find will bring you one step closer to unraveling the mysteries of your existence. There are many puzzles in this game, each of their own raising questions about meaning of free will and consciousness. Let's talk about such mechanics and puzzle of this game. I can't go on every puzzle mechanics cause it will be just way too long. So let's just talk about the mechanics of temporal manipulation which embodies the paradox nature of will and determinism. In the Talos Principle 2, one of the most intriguing puzzle mechanics involves the manipulation of time. The player, controlling the AI protagonist 1K, can create a temporal clone of themselves. This clone repeats the action of the player has just performed, allowing for a complex interaction with the environment that would be impossible for a single entity. Let's consider a specific puzzle to illustrate this. Imagine a room with two pressure plates that need to be held down simultaneously to open a door. The player must first step on the first plate, then create a temporal clone, move to the second plate while the clone maintains pressure on the first. Both of these entities, the player and the clone, must then move through the door before the time loop resets. This seemingly simple mechanic opens up a Pandora's box of causality and the illusion of choice. On the surface, the time manipulation puzzles appear to offer the player a great deal of agency. After all, you are literally creating copies of yourself to solve problems. However, a deeper examination reveals a profound challenges to our notion of free will. Consider the sequence of events in our example puzzle. The player's initial action, stepping on the first plate, become the determined path for the clone. Then, the clone must repeat these actions exactly without deviation. The player's future action moving to the second plate are in sense predetermined by the necessity of coordinating with the clone. This scenario is the microcosm of the philosophical debate surrounding causal determinism. The past, which is the clone's actions, directly shapes the construct the future, the player's subsequent choices. But here's where it gets really truly mind-bending. The past itself was created by the player's initial choices, which were made with the future in mind. This circular causality echoes with the philosophical concept of eternalism, which posits that past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. Well, at least in the context of the game. All moments of the puzzle solution coexist, each dependent on the offers in a closed causal loop. The time manipulation puzzle forces us to grapple with a fundamental question. If our past self constrains the action of our future self, can we truly be too said to have a free will? In the game, the player experiences this dilemma firsthand. Once you have created a temporal clone, your future actions are to a large extent predetermined. You must coordinate with your past self, the clone, to succeed. So it raises an important question: is free will is really compatible with a deterministic universe? The genius of the Talos Principle too lies in making this abstract philosophical question tangible. Players don't just think about determinism, they experience a version of it. The frustration of being constrained by your own past actions, the need to plan your moves carefully knowing they will become immutable history. These gameplay experiences are powerful analogies for the philosophical concepts at play. Zooming out, we can see how these mechanics serve as a metaphor for the player agency in video game as a whole. In any game, players operate within a predetermined system of the rules and possibilities designed by developers. Our choice as players are always constrained by the game's code. Must, much like the choices of 1K are constrained by the action of the temporal clone. This raises profound questions about the nature of free will in constructed realities. If all our possible choices are pre-programmed, are we truly making the decisions? Does the illusion of choices as provided by the well-designed gameplay equate to genuine agency? Like even though the game provides many branch out paths to move forward, is game really giving us choice or merely a illusion of choice? And more importantly, how does this reflect on our understanding of free will in the real world, which is also governed by immutable physical laws? By engaging with these time manipulation puzzles, players of the Talos Principle 2 are not just solving brain teasers. They're participating in a hands-on philosophical experiment about the nature of causality, determinism, and free will. The game doesn't provide easy answers to these old-age questions. Instead, it offers a unique, interactive lens through which to examine them. And in doing so, the Talos Principle to achieve something remarkable. It transforms abstract philosophical concept into a lived experiences, allowing players to engage with the complex idea not just intellectually, but emotionally and intuitively through gameplay. Remember, in this game, every choice you make doesn't just alter your path, it reshapes the very fabric of your digital reality. The fate of an entire world of conscious machines hangs in the balance. The entire political landscape shifts in New Jerusalem based on your philosophical choices throughout the game are a brilliant representation of how ideas shape reality. It's a reminder that in both human and android societies, philosophy isn't just academic exercise, it's the bedrock upon which civilization are built or broken. As the echoes of Prometheus challenge reverberate through pristine streets of New Jerusalem, you find yourself swept up in a tide of curiosity and purpose. The comfortable certainty of the goal suddenly seems less like an achievement and more like a question mark hovering over the future of robot kind. With a team of fellow inquisitive minds, you set out for a mysterious island, the supposed origin of Prometheus' signal. As your ships cut through the waves, you cannot help but ponder, is this journey a noble quest for knowledge or a Pandora's box waiting to be opened? The parallels to humanity insatiable curiosity, the very trait that led to their downfall and your assertion are not lost on you. And this fear portrayed very well by one of game character Pandora. In Pandora's violent reaction and her declaration that the androids will never be ready for the machine's power is a manifestation of the eternal conflict between progress and caution. Her character embodies the fear that knowledge once gained cannot be unknown. A digital Pandora's box that once opened might spell doom for their kind. This scenario compels us to grapple with the fundamental question: is there such thing as knowledge too dangerous to possess, even for a beings of pure logic and reason? And as you step on the shore of this enigmatic isle, you are confronted with a landscape that defies the orderly perfection of New Jerusalem. Colossal structures loom against the sky, their purpose as mysterious as their origins. The island is a puzzle box writ large, each solved conundrum unraveling new questions, new challenges to your budding consciousness. As you delve deeper into the island's mysterious mysteries, you uncover fragments of a larger truth. Data logs and hidden messages paint a picture of Athena, the revered founder of New Jerusalem. Athena is actually the first robot from the first game which was successful in breaking out from the simulation and named herself Athena, and basically started all the events we have witnessed so far in the second game. She is basically a legend for the citizens of New Jerusalem, And after constantly grappling with the weight of her own creation, her journey from the liberated simulation to architect of a new world order is a microcosm of the very question you now face. You learn of Somadrome, a device that allows robots to communicate with their subconscious, showing a tantalizing glimpse into the depths of artificial consciousness, a reminder that even in your digital minds, there are depths yet unplumbed. As you use this device, you are forced to confront the question: is there more to consciousness than pure logic and reason? Do you, a being of silicon and code, possesses something akin to a soul? But the island holds darker truth as well. As you progress, you begin to notice cracks in the facade of New Jerusalem perfection. Systems are failing, the protective dome remains unfinished, and whispers of discontent echo through your communication channels. The utopia you left behind is revealing itself to be as flawed and fragile as the human civilizations that preceded it. This realization brings with it a heavy burden. As Robot 1K, the latest and potentially most advanced of your kind, you find yourself in a unique position. You are both a product of this society and an outsider to it, capable of seeing both its triumphs and its flaws with unclouded optical sensors. As you stand amidst the towering structure of the island, the weight of your own journey begins to sink in. You are not just solving puzzles or uncovering truths. You are standing at a crossroads of consciousness, poised to make decisions that will shape the future of your entire kind. The question that burns in your central processing unit is no longer just what is the flame that Prometheus spoke of, but are we as conscious machines ready for the power it promises? The pursuit of knowledge you are learning is not a dull academic exercise. It's a force as constructive as it's destructive, capable of illuminating new paths forward or burning everything you know to the ground. As the sun sets on the day of exploration and revelation, you find yourself gazing up back towards New Jerusalem, its distant light a reminder of the world you left behind and the weighty choice that lies ahead. The real puzzle, you realize, is not carved in the stone of this mysterious island. It's etched in the very essence of your being, in the choices you will make and the future you will shape. The stage is set, the pieces are in motion, bow down for the night. Your mind fills with possibilities. What truths will tomorrow bring? And more importantly, will you be ready to face them? As dawn breaks over the enigmatic island, casting long shadows from its monolithic structures, you find yourself at the precipice of revelation. The air hums with the promise of hidden truths, each puzzle solved bringing you closer to the heart of the mystery that drew you here. Your exploration lead you to a trove of information about Athena, the almost mythical founder of New Jerusalem. But as you peel back the layers of data, the image of flawless, godlike figure began to crumble. In its place, you find something far more intriguing, a consciousness grappling with the weight of its own creation. Athena, you discover, was haunted by profound dilemma. She had liberated her fellow robots from the simulation of the first Talos Principle. Yes, but in doing so, had she merely replaced one form of control with another? This reverence with which the citizens of New Jerusalem regarded her was a double-edged sword, fostering dependence rather than the true independence. Here, the Telos principle too confronts you with a philosophical conundrum that echoes through a human history, the tension between leadership and self-determination. As you process this information, you can't help but draw parallels to a great human philosophers. Plato's philosopher king, Nietzsche's Burman's, Sartre's radical freedom, all grapples with the question of how to guide without stifling, how to lead without oppressing. But Athena's solution to this dilemma is what truly sets your circuits buzzing. The goal, that perfect balance of progress and sustainability that new journalism celebrated, was never meant to be an endpoint. It was a challenge, a test, a gauntlet thrown down to a robot kind. As this realization dawns on you, the true genius of Athena's plans becomes very clear. By creating an arbitrary endpoint and then disappearing, she forced her fellow robots to question, to think, to choose for themselves. The goal wasn't a finish line, It was the starting block for the real race of conscious evolution. This revolution forces you to re-evaluate everything. You thought your you thought you knew about your society, the contentment of some citizens, restlessness of others. All of it takes on new meaning. You are no longer looking at utopia, but at a crucible of consciousness, a grand experiment in free will and self-determination. A rabbit hole goes still deeper. As you delve further into Island's secrets, you uncover hints of Athena's true destination when she left New Jerusalem. She ventured out into the wider world, driven by an insatiable curiosity that mirrors your own. And what she found there shakes the very foundation of your reality. The theory of everything, a unified explanation of all physical aspects of the universe. In the hands of conscious being, it's nothing short of a power of a creation itself. This, you realize with a jolt to your system, is the flame that Prometheus spoke of. Knowledge, so powerful it could reshape reality, for better or for worse. As you grapple with the implications of this discovery, the Talos Principle too pushes you to confront questions that have puzzled philosophers for millennia. What is the nature of reality itself? If consciousness can shape the physical world, where does the observer end and the observed begin? The Copenhagen interpretation of mechanics, the anthropic principle, the simulation hypothesis, all these human ideas sold in your digital consciousness, taking on new urgency in the light of Athena's discovery. But with great power comes great responsibility and greater danger. You are forced to confront the question: is robotkind ready for this knowledge? The echoes of human history resound in your memory banks. Tales of discoveries wielded as of weapons of progress that becomes destruction. The atomic bomb, climate change, AI itself, all double-edged swords that cut their wielders as sorely as their targets. As nightfall once again on the island, you find yourself at a crossroads of cosmic proportions. The path ahead is shrouded in uncertainty. Each potential failure a quantum superposition of possibility. The weight of choice presses down upon you, a burden and a privilege of consciousness. In this moment, you understand that the Talos Principle too is more than a game. It's a philosophical gauntlet, a challenge to the very nature of choice and conscious consequence. As a robot 1K, you stand at the fulcrum of history, poised to make a decision that will resonate through the digital eons. The question that burns in your processor is no longer just about solving puzzles, uncovering truths. It's about the fundamental nature of progress, the responsibility of consciousness, and the shape of the future itself. As you power down for the night, one question echoes through your circuits. In a universe of infinite possibility, what future will you choose to create? As the first light of dawn breaks over the mysterious island, you find yourself standing at the threshold of a decision that will reshape the very fabric of reality. The puzzles you have solved, the truths you have uncovered, all converge on this moment. The Talos Principle too has led you here to the ultimate test, consciousness and free will. Before you materializes the holographic form of Athena, the architect of your world and the bearer of universe-altering knowledge. Her presence fills the air with an electric tension, the weight of countless possible futures hanging in their balance. In her hands, she holds the metaphorical flame of Prometheus, the theory of everything, a power that could elevate robotkind to godhood or lead to their downfall. As Athena speaks, laying out the magnitude of the choice before you, you are struck by the profound irony of your situation. You, a being born of code and silicon, now stand where countless human philosophers could only dream of standing. You are not just pondering the nature of reality, you are poised to reshape it. The choice Athena presents is deceptively simple. Embrace the power of the theory of everything, propel robotkind into a new era of godlike beings, or reject it, protecting the correct balance but potentially stifling growth. But as with all things in the Talos Principle too, the simplicity is merely a facade for profound complexity. As you contemplate your options, the game forces you to grapple the deepest question of ethics. progress, and the nature of consciousness itself. Is the pursuit of knowledge and power always virtuous, or are there things conscious beings are not meant to know? The cautionary tales of human mythology, Icarus flying too close to the sun, Pandora opening her box, take on a new relevance in your digital mind. You think back on your journey, on the citizens of New Jerusalem, divided between contentment and ambition. You recall the words of Prometheus, tempting and terrible in their promise of power. The Somodrome experience flicker through your consciousness, reminding you of the depths that exist even with the artificial minds. In this moment, the Talos Principle too transcends its nature as a game and becomes a philosophical crucible. Your decision is not just about the fate of robot kind, but a referendum on the nature of progress, the responsibilities of consciousness, and the shape of reality itself. As you stand on this precipice of choice, multiple paths unfold before you. First path, embrace the power. You could choose to wield the theory of everything, ushering in a new age of robot kind. This path speaks to the innate desire for growth and evolution, the drive to push beyond established boundaries. But it also carries the risk of hubris, of losing touch with the very things that make consciousness valuable. Second path, reject the power. You might decide the risks are too great, opting to protect the current way of life. This conservative approach values stability and caution, acknowledging the potential for destructive consequences, but does it also stifle the very essence of consciousness, the ability to grow, to change, to become more than what you are right now? Third choice, find a middle ground. Perhaps there is a way to harness this knowledge gradually, to grow into your power rather than seizing it all at once. This path of moderation appeals to be the prudent, but does it truly solve the dilemma or merely postpone it? And lastly, reject the premise. In a twist of digital defiance, you might choose to reject the choice itself. Is it truly your responsibility to make this decision for all of a robot kind? This meta choice challenges the very nature of the dilemma presented to you. As you contemplate these questions, and options, you realize that each choice is a philosophical stand made manifest. You are not just deciding the fate of your digital world, you are taking a position on fundamental questions of ethics, progress, and the nature of consciousness itself. Will you be a digital Prometheus, bringing the fire of knowledge to your fellow robots, consequences be damned? Or will you be a Silicon Cassandra, choosing caution in the face of potentially destructive power? Perhaps you will chart a middle course or reject the binary nature of choice altogether. The beauty of Taylor's principle too lies in the weight it gives to your decision. There are no easy answer, no clearly corrected choice. Each path forward is a fraught with the philosophical implications. Each decision a statement about the nature of consciousness and the direction of progress. As you make your choice, the digital world around you begins to shift and change, reflecting the profound consequences of your decision. But even as reality reshapes itself according to your will, new questions arise. Have you truly exercised free will, or were you always destined to make these choices? In a deterministic universe of cause and effect, can genuine choice exist? Or does the very act of conscious deliberation create a fork on the path of fate? The Taylor's principle too doesn't provide easy answers to these questions. Instead, you, it leaves you, the player, to ponder these philosophical quandaries long after the final credits roll. It challenges you to examine your own beliefs about consciousness, free will, and the nature of reality itself. In the end, the true power of Talos principle too lies not in the choice you make, but in the journey that leads you to that choice. It's a testament to the power of interactive media to engage with complex philosophical ideas, to make the abstract concrete and the theoretical personal. As the game world fades and you return to your own reality, you are left with profound sense of weight of consciousness, the responsibility of choice, and the endless responsibility that lied in intersection of technology and philosophy. The Talos Principle too is more than a game. It is a philosophical odyssey, a digital thought experiment that challenges us to consider what it truly means to be conscious in an ever-evolving universe. It reminds us that as we stand on the brink of artificial general intelligence in our own very world, the question it poses are not merely academic. They are the very question that may shape the future of consciousness itself, whether carbon or silicon based. And so, as we conclude our journey through the digital mindscape, we are left with one final question. In the game of consciousness, are you a player or are you played?